Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Choose or Die. So, immediately when I go into this film, I would have to say that, a lot of people will probably like this film. A lot of people will probably, definitely say it, at least it's a thumbs up kind of film. That a lot of people like, man, like the levels in this movie are so great. The only problem with this movie is everything other than the level part is boring. It's just there's nothing really going on in between. So you're just kind of like, man, I can't wait for like the next level because nothing else really matters. This girl has a job, she loses a job. She may have a boyfriend. Well, even if she does or does not really have a boyfriend, it won't matter within this movie. Does she have a mom? Does she not have a mom? Well, that won't matter either. So invest in nothing with the main character that they focus on, who is actually Kayla. And so really I have to go on and say that there's a movie or movies out there that exist that are fairly similar to this. A lot of people immediately will probably say like Stay Alive. Like this is like a less than version of Stay Alive. I would probably also say like there's this movie I think called Beyond the Gates. That is to be this like VHS uh, game kind of movie that's kind of like a on a low end kind of thing, but it's still a game. Where the guys are to like desperately have to go through this VHS game to try and find their father. And it's two brothers who are to own this like video store. So it's like an interesting story. I enjoyed the play out of that. But anyways, there's also to be like Alice in Borderlands, Darwin's Game, which is a really good anime, um, and so on and so. There's like the Gerard Butler movie Gamer comes to mind, like somewhat similar to this in some ways. Um, but anyways, so kind of the like we have to. I don't quite understand how we have like really some named actors who are doing some small roles into this film, and then we have Kayla who has to carry this whole movie. And I'm like, well, like I guess really like this movie isn't to also really be carried by Kayla. It's to be carried about like what's going on around Kayla. Like that's what kind of is to sell you the movie, but still. Um, so yeah, so I would have to say that this movie is okay, but I just feel like there's better things out there. Um, so it had like I and plus also like uh consistently in my brain I feel like consistently have this like tug of war back and forth of like am I not being like am I not rewarding this movie enough? Like is okay just not okay enough for this film? Like I would say it's a strong okay. Going into possibly good territory, but again, um, there's just a lot of dead time and dead space in this film, and really, I cannot not say that there's just a lot of wastes of an hour and 25 minutes, or an hour and almost an hour and a half. So yeah, so with that said, let's go out of our way to just go into teeing it up. So we have Kayla who is to be with Isaac as they are to discover uh, this sensor video game. And so as they go on and they or no, this cursor, I'm sorry, this cursor video game, after someone is to go on and play this before, and we'll show like the beginning of that whole ordeal. So Kayla is to start playing this game, and so every single day at 2 o'clock in the morning when she had first played it, she has to do a level at that same time. And so Kayla is to at some point have her mother be at risk, at some point have her boyfriend at risk, because really, like, they play around with the fact that Isaac could possibly be Kayla's boyfriend, but like, because really, I guess Kayla doesn't have anybody else. Kayla is to have this cleaning job where it doesn't seem like she's going to be working there for very long, and because she, of course, is due this level that could put her job at risk. And Kayla goes on and is to continue to find herself meeting up with past winners, and is to go on and go from player to a person that is controlling the game, and going on to find others to go on and play this game. Because I guess once you become a winner of this game, the next step is for you to just go on and become a person that is to put a game together for someone else. So I guess that's kind of like the transition going on in this film. So with that said, let's go on and do that double five, because it's otherwise that time yet again to just go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about the time I'm going to spoil this movie. So in the very beginning of this film, we have Hal. Hal, of course, is in his room, kind of overhearing his wife Laura and his son, who of course is Gabe, fighting. Because Gabe, of course, is to get into some kind of school trouble, and so Laura and Gabe are just kind of arguing about what Gabe had done. And so Hal is overhearing this, and he like is just so like over both of them. And Hal, of course, is mostly focused on playing this game, to where Gabe is to call Hal out on that. And like Hal is just kind of overhearing what they're saying. And so Hal goes on and starts playing this game, and it's to be Cursor. And so all of a sudden the game starts, and so Hal is to all of a sudden see that this is to say that he's in a tavern and there's a beer present, or there's a drink present. And so Hal is to go on and drink this beer, and come to find out, like, the game is to say like what exactly he had done. And so Hal all of a sudden is to say, it's like, well, I'll have another. And so all of a sudden this beer just appears out of nowhere, and Hal just like, ha, like, this is funny. So all of a sudden Hal is to go on into this game, and all of a sudden there's a part of this game where it says choose his tongue or her ears. choose or die. And so all of a sudden, Hal is to start hearing this ringing in his ears, and so all of a sudden he goes out to his family. That all of a sudden is to have, uh, of course, Gabe without a tongue, and we of course have Laura, I think, without her ears, because I think they went on and I think at some point had to consistently like choose to have certain family members of Hal to start missing some items. Hence why you kind of see in this picture here where you have a character that is to kind of tape himself up. So it seemed like Hal had gone on and won this game, and so now it seems that we move on to the next contestant, who is Kayla, because Hal was to go on and win this game by distributing out a number of copies of this game to a number of people. And so it seems that Kayla is to get one of these copies. So, so Kayla is to find one of these copies and show it to Isaac. And Isaac is saying, it's like, well, maybe there's some kind of contest that you can win, because Isaac is to mention how and Isaac is kind of like this this refurbisher of old games and stuff like that, and we of course have Kayla that likes to go on and likes to like uh, clean stuff also, and so like Isaac is kind of like this guy that has all these old retro games, and Kayla is much more like the refurbisher or the cleaner. Um, but I don't know, like either way. So we go on and we have Isaac talking about a contest that some guy was to win by beating some game, and Isaac is to mention that there was some bank account at the end of the game being won. So now we go on and we have Kayla that is to call this number, and all of a sudden Robert England is to do the voice here and is to mention that that these kids aren't to be paying for their parents' their obvious parents' phone call, and that for these characters to go and implement this this certain digit number to get this passcode, or to get this winnings. So all of a sudden we have Isaac, who's just giddy by the fact that Robert England was to have done this whole voiceover thing, and Kayla's like, who is Robert England? And so we go on and we have Isaac, who's starting to quote like certain Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, because of course he does, because he has a poster in the back of his wall just saying that he is this fan. So we have Kayla that is to go on and is to eventually put on this game and decides to start playing it. So Kayla, of course, just start playing this game, and she is at this restaurant, kind of waiting for Isaac to show up. So we also had Kayla, who's dealing with Thea, who's her mother. That it seems that Thea is to have this problem with probably depression or a number of other things because of the loss of her son and Kayla's brother. And so Thea is to consistently want to just medicate to just kind of deal with this problem. And that medication is to lead to a guy named Lance who just has these drugs. And Kayla's like, well, hey, like, don't continue to take drugs from that guy or you're going to die. So, like, stop doing that and, like, just kind of, like, just deal with it. Like, just don't try to, like, escape using drugs. So, but pushing on. So Kayla is at this restaurant and she starts playing this game. And so all of a sudden, we have Kayla having to have a choice between cake or coffee. And so Kayla chooses coffee. So weirdly, like in the restaurant, they have this list, and the list is just filled with coffee or cake. And so all of a sudden Kayla is to choose coffee, and so we have this waitress that immediately just starts pouring coffee right in front of her, and the waitress is to tell Kayla like say when, or I won't stop pouring. And so Kayla's like, okay, when? She's like, oh, good, because like you stopped me at the perfect time. So the waitress goes on and is to like start cleaning items and stuff like that, just kind of waiting, um, because it seems like Kayla is waiting a long time for I think Isaac to show up here. So what happens after this is that Kayla is to see on the screen that the game is asking her like, well, hey, like, would you like to take a break? And Kayla's like, sure, like, I'd like to take a break. So all of a sudden, the waitress is to take all these glass items and is to break all of these glasses by dropping them onto the ground. So all of a sudden, like, Kayla's realizing, oh my god, like, this girl is dropping all these glasses, and so now I have to try to get her to stop. So Kayla is to type in, like, clean up. So that means all of a sudden this waitress is to pick up this glass with her bare hands, and the only way that she can clean it up is by putting it in her mouth and chewing. I'm like, oh my god! Like, that's gotta be like the worst thing in a horror film, is because I think there was one movie where like they did this like glass thing. It might have been a light bulb or something like that, but like glass is just got to be the like the freaking grossest thing you could do in a film. Um, but I get how they can like make it look like candy or Jolly Ranchers or whatever, but still, uh, it's just gross. So the waitress is just chewing this glass, and she can't stop cleaning it up. And so Kayla is trying to run to stop this woman from doing this, and all of a sudden this chef kind of gets in the way. So Kayla gets closer to the waitress, and the waitress is like, "I'm sorry, I can't stop." So all of a sudden the round is complete, and Kayla is to go on and be like, "Wow, like that was like crazy." So we have Kayla that goes on and is to sleep and be haunted by, of course, her brother, or the past of her brother. So we uh, we go on this film, and so Kayla is to at one point go to work, and it seemed that Thea was to mention that they're having this like horrible rat problem, and Kayla's like, oh, okay, well, I'll kind of put up more rat traps. So all of a sudden, Kayla is now at work, and she does this like kind of late cleaning job. And when it seems that her boss is to give out paychecks, it seems that this one girl is to get less than everyone else does. And the boss is just like, well, that's because you're like slower and you don't do as much. And the girl's like, well, I'm pregnant. And it's like, that's no excuse. So we have Kayla that's seeing this TV screen come on, and all of a sudden we have Thea, Kayla's mother, who's calling her and trying to like get her help because the rats are just so crazy. So all of a sudden now on this game we have this kind of crazy game here where Thea is at one part of this apartment that they're in, and so Thea's in one room, and we have this big massive rat that is to try and want to go on and get to Thea, and we have this consistent like visuals of either meat or something else. So we have like consistently Kayla having to choose where this item is to go, either the rat or Thea herself. So Kayla is to try to demand like her mother to move into certain rooms, but her mother is too scared. And so Kayla is to force Thea like to basically just jump out this window, and Thea does so and then is to injure herself. Now she's in a hospital, but the rat never got to her. So Kayla is to go on, and we had Lance. Lance, after Kayla and Thea were talking, Lance was to have a note or a letter for Kayla saying that she wasn't accepted into this programming job, and that Lance is also saying that like it's just going to be a matter of time before Kayla's mother wants him to kind of give her drugs, and Lance is consistently looking at Kayla for like some kind of payout, either to like either to have her please him in some manner, or to figure out some kind of payment arrangement for some kind of something, to figure out how Lance can force Kayla to do something for him, one way or the other. So Kayla is to go on back home to realize that Kayla's place is very disheveled now. And Kayla is to have this broken bottle to see if the rat is still in there so she can kill it. And there is no rat, but all of a sudden there is Lance saying, like, oh my god, like, your place is freaking destroyed. Like, you're never going to get that, God, what was it? Like, I don't want to, like, it's when you go on and you, like, and you have like renter's insurance or something like that, or like you have like a certain other fee just in case for damages, like yeah, like Kayla isn't going to get that money back for damages. So Kayla is to kind of threaten Lance with this bottle, as Lance again is to basically say it's like, well, how much per hour? Like $20, $10, $5. So Kayla eventually used to scare Lance off, and so we have Kayla going on to meet with Isaac, because after Kayla was to go on and play that game to have her mother get injured, her boss was to find out that Kayla was to ruin this TV, and so her boss was to fire her over that. So let me kind of back up a little bit here. So we have, of course, Isaac. We have both Kayla that are trying to figure this out, trying to figure out this game, figure out why this is going on the way it is. So, and Isaac is like, well, when do we need to play another round? Like, when do we go on and do more of this? And so Kayla's to say, it's like, well, every single time it was like 2 in the morning when I played this, so every single time it should come up at 2 in the morning. And so Isaac is like, oh, okay. So they go on and they are to, of course, to play another round. And we also had Isaac, who afterwards was to go on and figure out how to put this phone number of the game into the system to find out that there is a specific location for both Isaac and Kayla to travel to possibly find this game. But anyways, let's backtrack. Let's backpedal a little bit. So the next game. So Kayla is to have had a brother that was to have died or drowned in this pool, simply because Kayla wasn't looking for a pure second, and her brother had died in this pool. So Kayla is to immediately think the game knows about that, and that the game is going to use this against her. So Kayla now has to go to this pool and is to force herself into this pool that is to just be like this fog. Isaac is to follow behind her, and so the next mission or the next level is to have Kayla choose between either Isaac or Kayla's own brother. And so Kayla wants to save Isaac, and so she decides to choose Isaac. And so Kayla drags Isaac, and it's not working. And all of a sudden, Kayla's brother is to start attacking her. And so now Kayla is to go on and suffocate her own brother, so that way he will stop attacking her, and he will sadly enough die yet again. And so that ends up saving Isaac and saving Kayla and finishing this level. So we go on and we have both Kayla and we have both Isaac that go on to find this location, and that eventually leads Kayla to find where the next level is, where the next boss level is, or the next boss battle. So come to find out, Kayla is to find Hal and his wife and his son at this location, because all that they really find is the Robert Englund recording that is to just play on this loop. And Isaac is like, well, I guess there's no winning, or there's no real reward at the end of this story. So, but we have Kayla that meets with Hal, and so Hal is to mention how he had distributed this game, and that's how he, of course, was to avoid ever having to play it anymore. And so Kayla is to go on and say, it's like, well, I came here because this is to be the boss battle. And Hal's like, wait a minute, what? So is it saying that I'm the boss battle? Like, isn't that kind of horrible for like me to now be like the boss battle? Like that doesn't seem right. So all of a sudden we have Kayla and we have Hal who are going to have to fight it out here because Kayla is to have to choose between her or him. And so what we also find out here is Kayla is to see this video at this facility where this guy is to go on and be the person putting together this game level for this other guy that is to kind of come in here randomly. And so the guys playing the game or starting the game, and the gamer guy is to mention that he was supposed to be like fed by these people, that he was expecting some meal. So all of a sudden in the game is to mention it. It's like, well, hey, like, do you want to go on and eat this computer or eat this arm? And the gamer is just like, really? Like, this is seriously the question here? So the guy chooses to eat his own arm, and so all of a sudden, like, the arm kind of comes up, and he's like, "Ugh," and he's just biting on his own arm. And we had the guy who was behind the scenes, behind the camera, kind of like the Oz guy, and so he stabs into his arm, like the guy that's putting this game together. He stabs himself, and while the gamer is to be like chewing on his arm, the guy who's putting the this game together for this other person is to all of a sudden have his wound that he knifed himself into, it heals for this gamer to, I guess, be in agony. So we have it to where like there, I guess, is some like reward for, I guess, being the person that is to kind of win this game. So we have Hal versus Kayla, and so what we find out is that the characters are to not actually hurt Hal to kill Hal. It's the opposite. So Hal was to try and kill Kayla, but he only realized that he would hurt himself. And so now Hal would go on and stab into his face to kind of hurt Kayla, and all of a sudden there's this gun that comes into play, and Gabe is kind of having this gun, and so Hal is like, no, don't shoot her, shoot me. And so we get when Kayla is to grab this statue, and she's to jump into this pool, and she eventually stays in this pool, and she's fine. But all of a sudden, we have Hal who is drowning, and he dies. So after after Kayla is to basically kill Hal here, she wins this level, and now Kayla is asking Laura, like, hey, what are you guys gonna do next? And she's like, I don't know, like we're just kind of here now, like that's like all we really can do. And so I think that there was, like, I'm not quite sure about the Isaac level when exactly that was, so I'll just kind of mention that now. So at one point, I think it was probably before this. So we have Kayla that's going on and having the game realize that the both of them at some point were trying to cheat by trying to find where this game was. and finding out this certain information about the game. So the game had decided that these people were cheating or trying to cheat. So the game punishes them for that. Because at one point, Isaac is to mention that he is to want to develop this game and that maybe Kayla can be the programmer for it. And that Isaac is to say that if someone is to try and cheat in the game, that they're going to have to get really hurt because of that to want to win. So we have Kayla that is to see this thing that she is going to have to press to either rewind or fast forward. And so Kayla goes on and chooses to fast forward, which has Isaac all of a sudden be shooting out all of this like film reel. And then Kayla decides to rewind, and so all the reel is going back into this guy's mouth. And then she decides, wait a minute, no, like it's probably better to fast forward. And so she fast forwards, and all the like the film reel is coming out of Isaac's mouth. So after Kayla is to do this, she's to pull like the rest of the reel out of Isaac's mouth, realizing that he's going to die at this point, and there's nothing that Kayla can do. So Isaac is to mention again that he was the one to have gotten Kayla interested in Run DMC, and like there was nothing about I love you, or there was like no sentimental thing. It was just like, oh hey, yeah, like I had you interested in Run DMC, or otherwise you wouldn't have been interested in Run DMC at all. And then Kayla just kind of moves on to the person she's gonna have to kill next. So after the boss fight, really after that, we go on and eventually just have it where Kayla is to kind of just be winner chicken dinner here. So really she goes on and then is to control the game, type out the game. And so what she decides to do is to go on and have this like monologue of like all these lines that she has to go on and say like about how she's going to take the game, and she's going to have a goal in mind. So all of a sudden we have Lance, who is to be getting these texts, and of course they are technically from Kayla because she is controlling this part of the game to now get Lance into the game. So Lance all of a sudden is to at first get this question of like, well, hey, would you like $20 an hour? And Lance is like, sure. And Kayla's like, well, like, would you like me to be in charge? And Lance is like, sure. So all of a sudden, Kayla is to have charge of Lance's body. And so Kayla decides to have Lance shove his head into a sink full of needles, which leads to, of course, Lance's death, because Lance is to like have the like this exceedingly like bubbled up head, and then he dies. So Kayla, I guess, is to talk to the game creator, and so the game creator is it called Kayla and is telling her, it's like, well, hey, like, what do you like? What is your goal for the future for like this game? And Kayla is like, well, I'm going to go on and pick people who deserve uh, to be involved in this game. Basically, meaning that Kayla is probably going to pick bad people. So if they do get killed off, then it's not like any skin off of her. But like it's just the like picking the right people, choosing the right story kind of thing, and like I can like that. Like I if they went on and they made a sequel of this movie, I would go on and I would definitely watch it. I think this movie, there's something about it that I think could possibly make some pretty good sequels down the road. But other than that, yeah, I think I'm just gonna get out of here. I'm just gonna go on and go. Um, like, let me know in the comments below how you felt about Choose or Die. A lot of people can go on and say like, "Oh no, man! Like you're right on, or you're way off, or you're whatever about this film," because that's okay. Because at the end of the day, um, positive, but yeah, it was just like left me kind of like disappointed because I wanted a lot more out of this movie. But like, there was some interesting things that it did. I'll give it that. Um, but like there was just dead space. So with that, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm just going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.